today we're talking Superman. So it's kind of weird because this is actually my first real video on Superman for this channel, but I'm glad I finally get to do one. So the other day I was speaking to Lost in Wallace, who's a friend of mine and the channel, and is an amazing artist that you should be following on Twitter, and I'll link that down below, was telling me how this Superman right here goes for at least $100 on eBay now, which to me, I was like, that's kind of crazy because it's not that it's a bad Superman, I just don't think it's $100 Superman. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to show that you have some options rather than having to pay $100 for this Superman, that you could still get pretty close to this Superman if you're willing to put in a little bit of work. So let's get right into it. So this Superman was released by McFarlane as one of, I think, the first Superman that he released as part of the DC Multiverse line. And so this is based on Action Comics 1000. So this one actually has a second release, sort of, in a 2-pack that came with a version of Batman called Devastator. So they are effectively the same exact figure with the exception of the head, and it's the head that makes the difference. So here are the two Superman heads, and we have a scowl over here and just kind of a straight Superman head right here. So not even quite smiling, maybe a smirk, but that's about it. And so people are more interested in this one than this one, and really I think it just comes down to the face. So what can we do to fix that, right? Because right now, like I said, this is $100. This one you can get as part of the 2-pack still for 50 bucks. I've also seen it go for about 30 as well. So if you're able to get it for 30, then that's way better than 100 for this. And then there are a few head options. The first one I want to show is the Red Sun Superman. This one I think is one of the closer ones to a Superman head without actually being the same exact mold. And here's how the two look side by side. And it's not a bad look. It is obviously a little bit different because even the hair has some like blue highlights in it, just because it still is a different Superman. But it doesn't look too bad at all. So let's actually pop the heads and swap them and really see what it looks like on the body. So we're doing hot water to pop and swap the heads because the McFarlane heads aren't really meant to be pulled apart and swapped around because he never actually includes alternate heads. So I don't want to damage anything, so we're just going to play it safe with the hot water. Okay, here we go. Here is Superman with the Red Sun head. It actually looks pretty good. I like that a good amount. And then here we have him next to the Action Comics 1000. So obviously the hair curl isn't really there on the Red Sun Superman in the same way, but you still get that kind of, you know, part. I don't know how well that comes off on camera, but the skin tone of the face doesn't really match the neck super well. So that's a thing to consider as well if you are gonna try this head swap. Next up is Superboy Prime, or Superman Prime, I forget exactly. But in either case, this is not our regular Superman that we know, but the head actually looks pretty nice. Here he is next to our Action Comics 1000 Superman again. And let's see how that fits. Here we are with him with our Superman Prime head. And that one looks really good too. We have the same issue though of the flesh colors not really matching. This time the flesh of the Superman Prime is much lighter than the flesh of our regular Superman. And here's how they are next to each other. I do like this as a head sculpt. I actually do think it looks pretty nice. So that's a good option there. And finally, I have Rebirth Superman. So this one is interesting because it's actually using the same head sculpt as our Action Comics 1000 Superman. The body itself, I'm not a big fan of because he's just too big. It's not that Superman shouldn't be big, but I think even this size is too big for me to actually like it very much. But the head sculpt is what we are interested in. And here's how it compares to the original Action Comics 1000 one. And you can see that they are the same mold, even though the paint is just a little bit different. So the eyebrows are painted just a little bit differently, and then there's actually some paint under the eyes, which makes him kind of look like he's tired, which is really weird and funny. And here we are with our new Action Comics 1000 Superman. So as you can see with the original on the left right here compared to the one on the right, the mold is definitely exactly the same. The hair on this one is a little bit more blue than it is black, but that's something that's fixable if the color difference bothers you that much. And then otherwise, I would probably remove the paint bags under his eyes, but if you don't want to do that and you just want to do a pop and swap, then there you go. You can see that the skin tones don't match perfectly either, kind of like the other ones. However, it's a much closer match than the first two options that I showed you. So Getting this Superman, like I said, will cost you about 30 bucks or so on eBay. And then getting the Rebirth Superman, you can still get at retail for about 20 or possibly less if you can find them for even less than that. So that's closer to $50. On top of that, this one actually comes with a few extra hands that you would have that this one doesn't come with. So the two-back Superman, I think, only comes with a fist and this gripping hand, but then with the Rebirth Superman, you'll get fists as well as, I think, flying hands. So that way you can have the full set. Now, the only downside of that is that the hands are actually a bit bigger than the regular Superman. You can see that the regular Superman fist is quite a bit smaller than the Rebirth Superman hand. So if that's a problem, then, you know, don't use those hands. But if the main thing that you're trying to do is not spend $100 on a single figure, then this is a great way to do that. Now, if you are interested in removing the paint from under the eyes, it's actually pretty easy to do. And I did it in another video where I actually do remove the paint that goes around the character's eyes just to see if I could do it or not. And I did that to Morph, which I'll link right over here.